My name is Emily Waszak, and I'm a visual artist living in Donegal. So I think my work comes from, first, a deep sort of love and kind of intimacy with materials, especially textiles. And in terms of sort of thematically, recently my work has been dealing with grief and sort of how we can use ritual in service to dealing with really large emotions like grief, and how we can also use it in resistance to capitalism and sort of the acceleration of late-stage capitalism. So because my work is about grief, and really a sort of, it's offered as a kind of resistance, a kind of collective resistance to the atomization of people under late-stage capitalism. I hope that they get a sense of a collective mourning, and that they're not alone, and that these rituals can be a comfort when they're feeling this overwhelming sense of grief and loss about people, but also about sort of the world as we've known it. Climate grief is included in that as well. So I think my work has evolved sort of based on where I'm at. So, you know, my work is always going to be an extension of me, even if it's not explicitly, you know, my personal story. So my work is always a kind of anti-capitalist resistance, whether it's about ritual, whether it's about the factory, whether it's more explicit or not. And so I think that that will continue to underpin the work, and obviously my work is very materially driven, so I'm looking forward to exploring more different kinds of materials, more uses for those materials, and continuing this understanding of how we resist late-stage capitalism. And with this exhibition, it was a great opportunity to start experimenting with video work. So I hope to continue that process as well. When I was thinking about making site-specific work, I was thinking about the site and Dublin 8 and the Liberties in this space. And I was thinking, one of my good friends who's from the Liberties, when I think of this space and the history of the space, I often think of him and the stories that he would tell me just about his life, his family growing up. So also he was such an integral part of my time working in this factory, because it was not always pleasant, let's say, but he was always there to make it better. And so, yeah, I was thinking, oh, no one knows this area like he knows this area. And so I started talking to him about it, and that's where the idea of the walking tour came in. And, you know, there's lots of walking tours around Dublin, and a lot of them are, you know, the major history moment, like historical moments that we think of as being like sort of quintessential to the understanding of this place. And so I wanted to think about how we exist now in this space and sort of interweave it, no pun intended, interweave these narratives, our own personal narratives, with the sort of larger socio-political narrative of the space, because really it's constantly evolving. Sometimes we think of, you know, this was the time when something real happened, or this, you know, we want to go back to the good old days or whatever, but like they were never one thing. They were always evolving, and we are always a part of them. So I really wanted to make sure that in this new development in my practice, in terms of like making more narrative works, I wanted to include those sort of personal narratives within a larger context.